Spoilers.
Yo, welcome to Sports Nerd Web's Walking Dead podcast, Talking Decay. I am Soldier Only.
With the one and only Fuchsia, as is, every Monday.
Monday for this
one. Monday. I be Fuchsia only, and I am here.
Alright, yeah, so, getting into last night's episode, it was, I'm trying to remember what it was called. I can't remember the name now. I did see it when we watched Talking Dead, but it had something to do with how they borrowed, as I'm doing in quotation marks.
Quote unquote.
Took the guns from Oceanside. Tara finally told Rick about Oceanside, and our group finally went there, and they actually handled it really well.
I actually loved the way that they did it, how they set up the bombs outside of, spoilers obviously, but how they set up the bombs outside of the borders, and then made it seem like there's a lot more to them than what there was, and made it seem as if people were getting hurt, but they weren't. Yeah. And they did good making sure nobody actually got hurt.
Yeah, they didn't fire a single bullet until walkers came, of course.
Well, they did, because Michonne had to shoot the bombs. The explosions.
Well, explosives. You know what I mean. They didn't fire a bullet at anyone from Oceanside.
That's true.
It came really close.
Really close.
Because the grandma, again, the old lady, getting all buck wild.
Yeah, that's true. I'm in charge, and I say no, god damn it.
Well, I mean, I see her. I don't blame her for her point of view, though, either, though, you know? Like, because think it from their point of view, that they've already done the dance with the saviors, and that's all that's left is that Oceanside
it's
group.
Like she said herself, we've tried and we've lost more than what we could take.
Yeah, we're not doing it again. We've already lost so much. It's kind of interesting because they are what our group, what the survivors can be. You know what I mean? With everyone gone and, you know, just a bunch of women, a bunch of women left, but...
Yeah, and it was an interesting sight to see Sasha, like, she realized after she ran in that she made a big mistake. And it's like, you weren't too smart with that move.
And that's another thing, yeah, we'll get into that, obviously, too. We got to see the result of Sasha's bonsai attack, kamikaze attack.
Kamikaze, yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, kamikaze attack on Sanctuary. Obviously, she was captive.
I mean, where did she think she could go with that? I mean, she must have had an idea that there was a lot of people in there.
Well, we know what it was. I mean, she was going in there with planning to die. She probably didn't think that they would take her captive. Because remember, they even said, this is a one-way ticket. Because if we're caught, we're dead. We're as good as dead. She's not expecting this capture, join my team thing that he's been doing now.
That's true.
It was interesting to see what he did after that confrontation with Dave, and then he even says, we're not monsters. And
that's like bittersweet, because we're not monsters, hearing we're not monsters from the guy that bashed in. Like, even when he said that, I was thinking, but what you did.
Okay. This is the interesting about that, though. They kind of touched about this.
Sorry.
They kind of touched about this on Talking Dead, of how you notice all these other members of the Saviors, how they act when Negan's not around. There's more savage.
Well, Rapey Davy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They were saying like all this stuff that they do when Negan's not around, but when Negan's around, they're like
in line.
In line, exactly. So. And I've said this before. Think of it from Negan's point of view. All of a sudden, think if Negan was Rick, was the main character of the TV show, and there's this group that comes along and wipes out one of your outposts. Just kills everybody in that outpost. You capture him, you bash in a couple of their guys' heads, you're going to root for him. Think of it as Negan as the main character of the show. Look at it from their point of view. Obviously, I'm not condoning what they did. It was gruesome, and I told you, that month after the premiere of this season was dark as shit. So, trust me, I'm not saying, but it's just an interesting way of looking at it. Look at it from their point of view.
True, but
I think in Negan's mind, he's not a monster.
I think in Negan's mind, he knows he's fucked up, but...
He knows, yeah. He knows he's savage. He obviously has that swagger, and he uses it and loves it. You could tell he loves himself. But,
yeah.
But I also don't think he thinks of himself as big of a monster that, like, Tara and all them and Sasha do.
Well, you see, but that's the thing, is he has that manipulative part of it, and that really creates a monster, is, I'm gonna make you feel like you made me do this, not that I did it. When really, he's a monster. Yeah. And it's a very strong love-hate relationship with Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Negan. It's like, why? But I wouldn't have anybody else. It's too perfect. No. And, yeah. No,
there's that commercial with John Hamm from Mad Men in it. And I don't know what it is about it. Well, he does say something about a zombie or something, and he kind of is almost dressed like Negan. There's just something about that commercial. He kind of reminds me of Negan. And it makes me think, like, he would be a good Negan, too. And John Hamm is a very good actor. But I still think, JDM, as they call him.
Yeah, I think Jeffrey Dean Morgan has this sly grin about him that's so charming, you love to hate it. Or you hate to love it. Mm-hmm. You hate to love it would be better.
I know, because I've always loved him as an actor.
I hate to love Jeffrey Dean Morgan and how good he is. And it's like when they first called Jeffrey Dean Morgan and they're like, hey, so this AMC Walking Dead, wants to...
No, they didn't tell him it was Walking Dead. They just said... it was a big show on AMC or something.
Yeah, and the second they said, do you want to come in for casting? And he's like, it's Negan, isn't it?
He's like, it's effing Negan. Yeah, he said to his agent, it's Negan, huh? It's effing Negan. Yeah, I'm doing it. Because, I mean, he is the perfect Negan, especially if you've seen the comics and stuff. And
they did portray him very well.
Yeah, I mean, even that gruesome-ass scene at the beginning of the season with Glenn, that image of Glenn is ripped right from the comics.
That's true. Even the eye popping.
Yeah, that part. Yeah, that's the part I'm talking about. When I saw that, I immediately thought of that panel in the comic. Mm. I showed you that panel, didn't I?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking, and they did it beautifully in the show.
Beautiful
and
tragedy.
Remember, we were actually just talking about this, with the finale being next week. We have to mention that too. Next week is the season finale.
Stay tuned.
Just after we watched Talking Dead, they advertised how obviously they're going to be doing a season 7 marathon leading up to the finale. And as I told you just a few minutes ago before we sat down to record, we've seen a lot of episodes more than once, so could you imagine, like I said, seeing the season 7 premiere again? I can watch it again, but it's going to be hard. Because that was
I think what's going to be harder is the second and third and fourth episode after, because it was, I just slipped my down your, and you thanked me, like, oh my god, this is not Rick. And the most irony part is, that was you? I would not have fucked with that guy. And it's like, oh, the heartstrings are being pulled. Oh, no.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That whole month, like that whole first, 4 or 5 episodes of the season were just so dark.
and so depressing, and it was just so hard to watch.
Not even just with how brutal Glenn and Abraham's was. Like, it's what you're speaking to. It was just so hard to see Rick and our group in that state that they were after.
Knowing how well they took over Terminus.
Yeah.
And the governor.
Everything they had faced, they had won. I mean, yeah, they've obviously had a lot of loss, but they beat Woodbury. Oh yeah, Herschel was a big one, obviously. Beth was another big one. So I mean, you know, they beat the governor and Woodbury. They, even though it was short, it wasn't really a long battle. But the people at the hospital, Dawn was the cop's name.
Well, that was because of Beth.
Yeah, because they went to get Beth. That's right.
And then
Terminus, right? Yeah.
And then even Dawn, I think her name was. She was like, I didn't fire, and they killed her anyways.
Yeah, she, going back to that, she did not mean to kill Beth. I don't think she had it in her heart to kill her, but Beth stabs her in the chest. I don't know, that was just such a stupid move.
Yeah, that's true.
She didn't want them to take Noah, because remember, she wanted to keep Noah, but yeah, that's a tangent going.
Yeah, but anyways, back up on the current season, this new information about Dwight.
Yeah, well, yeah, we're gonna get to that in a second, but since we were talking about the Oceanside real quick, about the beginning, because that was the beginning of the episode, this was a really good question they had on Talking Dead, and I wanted to re-ask it for here to get your opinion. Was it right for the group to invade Oceanside?
I think so. I think they executed it very well. Nobody was harmed, and by the end of it, some people from Oceanside wanted to join. It wasn't just the main girl that saved Tara. It was a few others that were like, we want to help. But the leader of the pack was like, no.
It's either all of them or none of them.
Yeah.
She said something to that effect that she wasn't going to let only a couple go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is easy for us to answer that question because hindsight, you know, being 2020. Mm-hmm. Since we obviously see how they handled it. But if I was asked that question even before we saw the episode, I would still say yeah, you know, because they need those guns, they need all that. And if I was asked that before the episode, I would say yeah, they do need to go to Oceanside, but they have to do it in a way where they don't.
Well, that's what I love is that Tara said straight up, I had no choice, because she did keep it for a secret for a while, a good few episodes. She didn't say nothing. She
did, and as I told you, I figured that that's how it was going to play out.
And I like the way that it did because she's like, I'm sorry, but we really had no other choice.
And I like how she said it too. She's like, we need him. We are fighting the saviors. We are doing this for all of us. Like, this is going to benefit you, you know, if we're able to win and take them out. Mm-hmm.
But what's going to happen once they actually do take out Negan and all of Negan's army? What's the next battle going to be after that?
Is it, you know, just some other group they come across again in the future? It's like, where do you go after this? Because of how big the saviors are, how dangerous they are, how brutal they are, mm-hmm. how unpredictable they are. I mean, we're also forgetting about the wolves. Remember, there was even the wolves there for a little bit.
The wolves were very little, though. Like, I mean, I honestly thought there was going to be a lot more of the wolves and the backstory of the wolves, and that they were going to be an ongoing thing. But they were really only about one episode, and that group was not near as big as I thought it was.
Right, yeah, I agree. I'm pretty much in that same mind. I can't. I'm like making up words now, but yeah, I agree. I'm pretty much on that same boat. I'm pretty much on that same boat because I thought that there was going to be more to it as well. I mean, they were around for a couple episodes because remember it carried over the halfway. They kind of were,
but they were more like, oh, who are these people? Who is this? Who is this? Who is this? Oh, that's them. Boom, mm-hmm. Done.
They were just a smaller group of just a few people
that were cannibalistic.
That were savages. Well, were the wolves cannibalistic? The termites were cannibals.
Yeah.
I don't think the wolves were.
They might not have been, but I think they were.
It's possible.
Yeah.
I can't really remember. I remember a couple of them came across Morgan when Morgan was on his own before he found Rick and the survivors.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, they came across him and they tried to just take
Which
his stuff.
I could not be more excited for next week's episode because Morgan and Carol are back to a state where we haven't seen them in a really long time.
Well,
and this time they're together.
Yeah, well, in that sneak peek that it shows the next week, you can see Carol in the background with an AK-47 and she was in like the Kingdom like style of armor.
Mm-hmm.
Morgan was wearing Benjamin's armor, but they also said this in Talking Dead. It's kind of hard to tell which way he walks, because King Ezekiel tries talking him into coming with us, you know. And then they walk off, and Morgan is just kind of, you know, he's just chilling, and then he walks off. But it's hard to tell if he walks towards King Ezekiel in the group or if he goes off on his own.
And that's what we're gonna find out.
Yeah, so it is going to be interesting to see. But yeah, going back to the question, I obviously do think that they should have invaded Oceanside, and it was pretty much most of the Walking Dead community agreed. I mean, on Talking Dead, 92% of the fans said yes, so it was a pretty popular opinion as well.
And then the other question was, how do you think Tara felt when she saw Dwight? Because Dwight's the one that killed her girlfriend.
I didn't think about that when we... Yeah, we'll get into that, because at the very end of the episode, they return to Alexandria, and Rosita was back, and she says, there's somebody here. Mm-hmm. See, and obviously that did end up being Dwight in the shadows at the end of the one. For a split second, like, I was convinced it was Daryl.
Until you saw Daryl helping setting up the explosive, and he's like, oh, she's probably back. And it's like, wait a minute, that wasn't him.
I'm like, uh-oh, yeah, it
but
was
then
Dwight.
You also got to keep in mind, Dwight's always been like a hard-on for Daryl. And it wasn't until his wife explained it in the letter that I know that's why you really went after Daryl, is because he reminded you of what you were before the apocalypse.
Right, yeah, because remember in that when he went to his house to look for his wife, Dwight, you could see a lot from the pictures and the way they visually tell a story. You could tell he was a lot like Daryl in a way, you know, you could tell he was a biker, like worked on his bikes, and I mean, you see a lot of similarities.
It's really heartbreaking in that letter how she says, it's because of me that you turned into the man you didn't want to be. And I'm sorry for that, but like that, I would feel so much hatred for that I wouldn't want to forgive. Like doing something for somebody else and then having them walk away because you turned into what they wanted you to turn into. Like, that's a hard rock and a place to be.
Well, see, and the bottom line is he's doing... This is a crazy thing to think. Dwight can pretty much be where Eugene might be heading. Because the bottom line is, the similarity that Dwight and Eugene have is... Bottom line is they're both just doing whatever they can to survive.
You know what I wonder?
Because when we met Dwight, he was running from Negan.
Sorry. Yeah. Well, you know what I really wonder, though, is where's Negan gonna think Dwight is?
Okay, see, Kate, as I told you when we were watching Talking Dead, I have something to bring up I don't know if you thought of. Negan said, a little birdie told me Rick and the group's up to no good, right? Obviously that was Eugene.
Yeah.
But Eugene also doesn't know that Rick and the group is building this army and getting weapons, and he doesn't even know about the scavengers and the dumpster pile kids, whoever the hell they are.
The scavengers?
Yeah.
Something. I don't like them. I don't like her hairstyle. I don't trust them.
Here's the thing I was going to bring up to you. I don't know if you thought of this yet. Obviously, Negan has an inkling that Rick and the group is up to no good. What if he sent Dwight to do this? Put Dwight up to this.
And Dwight goes and says, I want to fight with you.
Yeah. What if this is Negan putting him up to this?
I can see it.
I could see it being something like that too.
Or that's why that'd explain if or why Negan isn't looking for Dwight. Like, oh wait, where is Dwight? That would explain why he's there. But Dwight's not doing what he was originally asked and is flipping.
See, exactly. And in the show, it's been long enough to where you think Negan would be like, where's Dwight? Because when we saw Dwight in the shadows, that was the night before. Granted, Negan has been dealing with a lot with Sasha, and all that. So it's still possible that he hasn't really noticed Dwight. Because Dwight does leave and go on... He does go outside the walls
But
and
he
go on little runs.
usually
But
is checking in with Negan.
yeah, Negan's always keeping a close eye on Dwight. Like we've talked about on this show before in the past. He keeps him close. And they asked this on Talking Dead, can Dwight be trusted?
Can Dwight be trusted?
And 67% said yes.
I'm about 50-50. Maybe 60-40. Because...
60-40 for yes or 60 for no?
For yes.
60 for yes.
Because he wants the same fight that they want. But here's the thing. It's not if he can be trusted. It's
if his intentions are true.
Yeah, it's not only if his intentions are true, but is the group really going to give him a chance?
I think they would.
Can he redeem himself for everything that he's done?
See, I'm literally thinking about this right now.
And you saw how Daryl, the second Daryl saw Dwight, he
turned into an animal.
Yeah.
Some of those noises, did you notice some of those noises he was making? Like he was, yeah. Remember, and that's the first thing I said, because I noticed how Daryl was there, and... and Dwight, I'm like, uh-oh. I'm like, here we go. Like, uh-oh, Daryl's there. I'm trying to think if I'm 50-50 or the same. I might be, I would say 55-45 probably for yes. He can be, no, I don't even like that question, can he be trusted? 'Cause I don't really think he can be trusted ever at all, but it's like, I like the question better. Do you think his intentions are true? This is what he's really doing, or if Negan's putting him up to it?
Yeah, because it's like one of those things in life where people will only do what suits them, and then if it doesn't suit them anymore, they move on to the next thing that suits them, or the next someone that suits them.
And especially in this world, that's what most people are doing.
And that's exactly what he's doing, because he ran from Negan, joined Negan, ran from Negan, got his face burnt.
Well, yeah, because his wife said, I'll marry you if you spare him. Mm-hmm. And that's why he just burned his face and didn't kill him. But it's interesting, though, because how long have I been saying this? Like, Dwight, I could tell that they were going this direction with Dwight, that he was someone, you could tell, doesn't like Negan, really. And I've been saying for a long time, I could see Dwight going against him, right? So, I want to believe that's what's going on, that he really is there on his own volition, that he's not put up to it by Negan. I really want to believe that he's really doing this, but I don't know. I could see it being Negan putting him up to it.
I can see it being Negan put him up to it, but I can also see him not doing exactly what Negan said. That he's going to be like, hey, so this is what he really sent me here for, but just hear me out. I'm going to be on your side, so if he shows up, keep it on the DL, and we'll attack him together.
Yeah, because, all we know as far as is that Negan just knows that Rick's up to something. Mm-hmm. So I can see him sending Dwight, be like, go to Alexandria. I mean, because Negan's a smart guy, and he has to figure, if they're up to no good, they're planning on rebelling and fighting them. So I could see him sending Dwight. I could see him being like, go to Alexandria, earn their trust.
You kind of have to think about it. When was the last time Negan was there?
To Alexandria itself. Was it when he killed Spencer? Mm-hmm. When they took Eugene. So yeah, he hasn't been back.
And they took Eugene, but he saw Judith.
It was that same time.
So he hasn't been there for a while. He should know damn well they're gonna rebel. It's like he gave Sasha the knife.
Right, yeah.
But it's like, but seeing as I'm standing above you with the bat, that's not so smart. Because that's one of Negan's favorite tactics is, oh, I know you want to rebel. I know you want to kill my ass. Here, let me give you the opportunity, because you're not gonna fucking do it.
And that will be his downfall in the end. His ego.
Yeah, probably. But, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see the season premiere and what's to come in next season.
I mean, remember your brother-in-law did tell us what happened kind of recently in the comics? I don't really want to say it in this, in case for people that haven't. I mean, he said that Negan was captured.
But I remember that they never really actually.
Because I don't read ahead. You know, I've read a lot of the comics, but I don't really read ahead.
That's real spoiler. That's not just keeping up with the episode spoiler. That's
yeah, because the comics are really far ahead of the show.
Yeah.
Like the whole Glenn thing, that was like a year and a half ago.
That was like over a year and a half ago.
It was like closer to two years ago.
And you know he keeps up with the comics.
Yeah, we know he does.
We can't forget about Free Comic Day.
Oh, it's the 1st of
May? 1 month.
First Saturday or Sunday?
Saturday.
First Saturday of May. Yeah, we can't forget it this year. But this is the thing, though. I don't think that's what's going on. I don't think Negan put him up to it. I think Dwight is there on his own.
But then that's going to send...
But it's an interesting point that you have to consider.
I think that's going to send Negan to Alexandria even quicker is, oh, wait, where's Dwight?
Do you think that's the first place he would go, though? That Dwight
no, but I'm sure
pulled the Benedict Arnold and went to the other side? I don't think that would be his first thing.
No, true, but
he'd be like... He's out there looking for his wife, because you got to figure Negan, you know.
Yeah.
Because Negan knows Dwight is up to something as well. Because remember with this whole doctor thing, you know, when Dwight told that story and Negan killed the doctor.
And it's like what we talked about last time. Negan has to know that
Dwight made all that crap up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That it's Dwight's fault that the doctor is dead because the doctor, in all reality, didn't do anything. But then you also have to figure that the Hilltop just lost a doctor, and that's the one thing Maggie needs is a doctor.
Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting to see what comes up with that. With Maggie's care, with no doctor and a
Negan
whole boatload of aspirin.
Dead. So
yeah, and the Saviors still think Maggie's dead. Yeah.
Yeah, the Saviors still think Maggie's dead. So I mean, that could pop up in the season finale.
I bet they find out.
I bet they do. Because that's another thing that happened in the episode when you find out that Gregory has never killed a walker before.
I was just going to get to this.
And not only that, but he goes back to his office, his room, starts drinking, and says, hey, go get the car, pack a bag. It's like, you're going to go get you fucking killed.
Okay. Remember when Simon gave him that address or whatever? Remember what he said, if you're having any problems or whatever, come see me. And it's interesting that Gregory says, pack a bag, you know. That's saying that you're gonna be gone for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So, is he really buying Simon's BS that they're gonna, like, take him in and all this? Like,
oh, God, yeah.
They're not gonna... Of course he's buying it. Gregory's a dumbass. But you really think, like, Simon's gonna take him in? Simon and the Saviors want him at Hilltop providing for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're not gonna take him in and have him there.
Yeah, because then he's not doing his job, but then obviously he hasn't been doing shit for his job. Like, how the hell... My real question that I want to know is how did Gregory get the position he has? Is he that good of a bullshitter?
I think he's got a silver tongue from hell, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he even had, remember, his little fumble with the walker. Other Hilltop members saw that. And Maggie's like, oh, don't worry, you know, he's learning. He's never killed one before. And they say, well, that's not what he told us. Like, he has Hilltop beat. But I still want to know what it is, because remember, there's these, there's these scenes with, between him and Jesus, where it's something like how they've said, like, Jesus should be the leader, or they make it seem like that leadership position in Hilltop is Jesus's, but for some reason, he doesn't want it. So I think it went to Gregory by default.
I think all of it went to Gregory by default.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we know why King Ezekiel is the leader. And that was explained. And that's one thing I really, really loved about when Carol met him. I don't know what's going on in the most wonderful way. That was really just awesome. But I love how... See, that's the thing with this show is it takes a while for you to actually hear somebody's backstory. And with King Ezekiel and Carol, it was upfront, honest from day one. You see through my bullshit. This is why I am what I am, but now you understand why I am the way that I am, and why I carry on this persona, because it's what they want. It's what they've seen. It's what they know. They like the fabrication of it. And Carol is like, okay, you know what? I can respect that, because I see what you mean. She understands.
Well, she's had to do the same thing. Remember these
Carol's cookies.
Susie Homemaker shows that she's put on in the past, yeah.
When they first got to Alexandria, oh yeah, she put that was right after she killed Lizzie. Look at the flowers, Lizzie. And then she goes to, hi, I'll make cookies.
It was
Peach
not
cobbler.
long after that. Yeah. And her Savage Rambo mission at Terminus, when she saved our group.
And that was after Rick sent her away.
Yeah, see, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens next week.
It's going to be beyond interesting.
And this is what's scary. Gregory's going there, and he knows what Rick's up to. He knows Rick is actually putting up an army, stealing guns, going to other communities, trying to recruit. And this is the one advantage our group has had. The advantage of surprising them, of putting up a fight when the Saviors think they haven't pinned down. But obviously, as we saw, they're rapidly losing that advantage, because now Negan knows that they're up to no good.
I'm sure Negan's known since day one. Since he left the last time, I bet he knows.
And obviously, Negan's done this dance before. Like, how many communities has he done this to? Because look how big the Saviors are. He's obviously had to do this over and over and over again. Look at Oceanside. There has to be other communities like Overside that have, like Oceanside, that has done the dance with the Saviors. And that's how the Saviors are that big, because Negan, they do it in, I think it's like Colombia or Mexico. The drug cartels and all this. They say something in pluma. I can't remember how you say it in Spanish, but translated, bottom line, it's silver or lead. Take what we're offering you, like money, bribery, whatever, or we kill you. So it's Negan's form of it. Join us or die. And that's how the Saviors are this big.
But that's one thing I've learned about the Saviors in Negan. And it's even something that Dwight's wife had even said, that it's better to be dead than to be joined with Negan.
Well, yeah, think of the what she's had to go through doing that, and it's just an awful situation for her and Dwight, because she agreed to marry Negan or whatever, to save Dwight, so Negan would spare his life. But then she also looks at it as now she made Dwight this person because Dwight had to do all this because of her. But then at the same time, she probably resents him and hates him because what she's had to go through because she did that to save him. You know what I mean? So there's this, just a cluster F of of blame and guilt and, going around that, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I think we are going to see her again, though. You know, I don't think she's.
But
just
then,
dead
you know
or
what
something,
I
you know?
wonder that a lot of people have forgot about? It's the season finale tomorrow. Whatever
week?
happened, well, next week, not tomorrow. I don't know why I said it. It's a long day. Anyways, whatever happened to the guy that was traveling with Tara? Where is he? Because you remember when it happened with Tara and that guy disappeared? We actually hadn't realized that Tara wasn't in an episode for so long because it was like, so much is going on. Like, oh my god, I can't believe this. What? And then it was Tara, and it was like, whoa, wait. It has been a while since we've seen Tara. See, and since they've done that, this time, it's like I'm not letting it slide that there's 2 people that aren't dead, that are gone, that are gonna have to reappear somewhere, because that's not just how they do it in Walking Dead. You don't just decide, oh, I'm gonna leave with a note.
Well, see, it's interesting. What I'm trying to remember what his and Tara's goal was, because remember
It was to find more guns.
It was, Kay. Because remember they left directly from the outpost. Remember they took out the Savior outpost. They didn't know it was just an outpost. They thought it was like sanctuary. They thought it was the Savior's like base. And remember they wiped everyone out at the outpost, and then Tara and whatever his name is just left on that mission, and they weren't coming up
Kevin,
with anything.
But I could be wrong.
No, Kevin. I know. I wish I could remember
Brian.
his name.
Keith,
or Keith, something. I don't know.
I don't know. You could be right.
But this is what's interesting, though. Remember that episode? Remember when she goes back to where the RV was? Remember the RV's gone, but then remember something was on the ground?
Mm-hmm.
It was like a card-looking thing, like a key card or something, and it had like something written on it or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the Talking Dead after that. I think it was Gimple. I think it was Scott Gimple was on the couch, and I remember Chris Hardwick asked something about it, like what was it, or you know, like, and whoever it was, I think maybe it wasn't Gimple. Actually, I think it was one of the producers. But I remember she said something along the lines of, you know, I can't really talk about it because it is something that's coming up later. That's kind of a big thing. So, whatever that was she found, I don't know. What would be awesome is if he shows up with the motorhome with maybe another group he found, maybe a bunch of weapons, something, you know?
Something. I mean, it's possible. It is very possible. That's one thing about this show is you never know what's going to happen. Even if you see it expected, it won't turn out the way you thought it was going to. And that's what I love about Walking Dead, is it has you on your toes, on the edge of your seat, every single episode, where you're just like, what's going to happen? We can't predict it.
Yeah, I mean, I literally watched the show with knots in my stomach at times, and
oh, I know.
when Negan's in a scene,
sometimes
I'm holding my breath, and like, I mean, no show has like ever done that.
Well, and there's sometimes we're sitting here watching the shows, and I'm curled up in a ball rocking back and forth because I'm getting anxiety just from how intense the show is, and I'm like, I can't do this. I need a cigarette. What's gonna happen?
I know.
And then it's over, and then and then I'm back down to normal, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, it is just, it's like a famous thing that I've carried over from Doctor Who. It may just be a TV show, but the emotional damage is real.
Oh, yeah.
It is so real.
Especially at the beginning of this season.
And especially with what this season is becoming.
Yeah. When Glenn was gone, you know, like, the world didn't seem real, you know, knowing that Glenn was no longer...
He was even in the obituary in Colorado.
Yeah.
Somebody legitimately put
took out an obituary.
Yeah.
And as we found out, well, I've always known, but those things aren't cheap.
Yeah, those things aren't cheap at all.
No. One thing, we have about like 5.5 minutes left. But one thing I also wrote down here too, I want to talk about how Sasha faked her desperation of committing suicide.
She was so upset when he came back with just a pill.
Yeah, she had that look like, and she looked like she was getting okay with the fact that, well, actually, I think I'm going to have to do this. But I think, obviously, I think it's pretty obvious what she was doing. She was doing it to try and get a weapon and probably surprise, because she's noticed how Negan's like coming in the room with his guard down to some extent, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that, because remember she said specifically like a knife or a piece of glass, you know, she obviously wanted a razor blade. Yeah, she obviously wanted something small and sharp.
Yeah.
So obviously I think in her mind she's thinking something to hide, so when Negan comes in, because she's okay to die. She's alright. She's okay. In her mind, she's okay with dying as long as she's taking Negan with her. Yeah. So I think she just wants a piece of glass, a razor blade. He walks in, you know, slits his throat or wrist or something. And then she goes down in a hail of bullets or whatever. I think she would be okay with that. That's what I think she's trying to do. But Eugene's bright idea, smart ass, I knew he was going to do it. Remember, I said it too. He's going to give her one of the pills. He gives her one of the pills, and she looks at it like, oh, God. Obviously not what she had in mind.
Which is a good, well, not a good thing, but that's one thing about Eugene.
In a way, it's a good thing.
Yeah, that's one thing about Eugene, is he always has this element of surprise, where he's just a coward, obviously, and he doesn't stand up, or he's not one of the leaders of the pack. Obviously, he's a follower.
Oh, yeah.
But he does have that element of surprise of, I actually know how to make bullets. I know, like,
he's very smart and important.
Yeah. He has that element of surprise to where it's like, well, what is he going to do? And then, of course, once that event happens, it's like, really, Eugene? But it's still...
Well, hell, he even chomped down on Dwight's wheelie.
Yeah, it's still a level of surprise from Eugene. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one thing I've noticed of Eugene since he's been on, is it's always something. But even when you find out what that something is, it's like, seriously?
Well, remember, it was said about Dwight. Remember, Maggie said it about Gregory. He's a coward, and cowards are dangerous. Eugene falls in that same category. But I love how Josh McDermott said this in Talking Dead, that when Eugene was trying to talk Sasha into joining him in Sanctuary and joining Negan's side, you could tell he was doing it as kind of a way to even validate his choice to himself too. Yeah. And I love how Josh McDermott, who plays Eugene, how he put that in that little bit on Talking Dead. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Sasha, how she's going to play it now, because as we saw in the previews of next week, she obviously is still alive. She's still held captive in Sanctuary.
But, she did make a very good point that he's going to use me against them now.
Oh, yeah. And, of course, Negan being the brilliant guy he is, of course that's what he's going to do. Mm. I have a feeling, though, like, I don't think she's going to make it out of the season. I think we are... I know... Obviously, I think we're going to lose...
a few deaths.
Yeah, we're going to lose a lot.
But there hasn't been any leaks like there was about Beth. So, like, remember when Beth died?
Remember what it was a leak, though? It was when she did The Following. Because she did an episode of The Following, mm-hmm. and she died in that. And it was pictures of that someone put on saying it was a leak from Walking Dead, but it wasn't. It was when she was on The Following.
Yeah, true.
But then she so happened to actually die in Walking Dead, like, a few weeks later.
Yeah, see, so, I mean, people are going to be bound to die. I just hope it's not...
Yeah, and
certain people.
Next week's Talking Dead is going to be really good.
Yeah.
It's going to have Scott Gimple, Norman Reedus, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan himself. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be an awesome Talking Dead. And as always, our podcast will be next Monday as well for the season 7 finale as well. So that's going to do it for this week's episode.
Thank you for tuning in. Leave your comments, notes, remarks, theories.
Yeah,
we want to hear these conspiracy theories.
Yeah, any of your theories or anything, any comments, we'll always talk about in the following week's episode. So,
and we will still check our email if you listen to last night's podcast.
Yeah, you can email the show at soldierfuchsiaonlyshow@gmail.com. or you can follow me on Twitter at SportsNerd48. You can tweet us there. So thanks for listening, and have a good week, and we will see you next Sunday for the Soldier Future Only show.